Hey, what's up? Justin here. Welcome to 65 Drums. If you want to make some killer upgrades to your electronic drum setup, if you got $1,000 burning a hole in your pocket, you want to make your drum set more epic, and you just don't know how to go about that, I've got 6 different ways to upgrade your electronic drum set for $1,000. And if you live in the United States, this is actually perfect timing because a lot of people are getting their tax return stuff back, and people are literally getting $1,000 checks from the government because they paid too much in taxes. So this will help you spend that money if you haven't already earmarked it for other purposes. Or if you're in my situation, you paid $1,000 in taxes because you were actually in the negative. But without any further ado, let's get into the upgrades. So for the first one, I thought it would be interesting to talk about cymbals because a lot of people are playing electronic drum sets that are like 10 years old. I don't care what brand you buy. Roland, Yamaha, Tuba, I don't care what brand you buy. Eventually those cymbals will start breaking. They will start wearing down. You'll see that like even the ridges on your rubber cymbals are starting to wear out. And maybe you want larger electronic cymbals. Maybe you want some like the shiny silver ones. eBay is my best friend because you can find a lot of great deals. Now, you got to make sure you're not buying stuff that is worn to death. I've accidentally bought stuff like that before. You want to make sure it's still in good condition, but you can find stuff like these two Roland CY14C crash cymbals for $300 for 2 of them. That's actually a pretty darn good deal, and that's only a third of the money we have to work with. Now, if you want to go all out and buy a set of silver cymbals, like from the Roland TD20 SX series, you can buy one of these for about $959. Comes with the hi-hat, comes with the ride cymbal, and 2 crashes. Now, I've been a fan of the metallic finish idea since day one. Now, I don't like the gold finish because it's like you're trying way too hard. But the silver finish, like the dark chrome finish, I do like those from the Roland TD20 SX, the Roland TD30 KV line. The reason why they went away from that is because eventually it does wear off. But if you do want to buy this stuff for the meantime, when it still looks pretty decent and pretty awesome, you can go this route. But of course, Roland isn't the only company that makes high quality electronic cymbals. ATV recently got in the game with some really nice cymbals, including a giant China cymbal, 17 inches across. They got a huge 18-inch ride cymbal. They got a 2-piece hi-hat with an optical sensor. By the way, some people really like upgrading from a 1-piece to a 2-piece hi-hat setup. It is a little bit louder, but it does feel better. So if you're looking to really enhance your setup, that is one option, one route to go for. And these ATV cymbals, they are incredibly expensive. Just buying 2 of them will eat up this entire $1,000 budget. So it is kind of crazy, kind of nuts. But if you think about it in terms of acoustic ride cymbals and crap, you can find tons of $500 acoustic ride cymbals as well. So yeah, it's overpriced, but it's not like everyone else isn't either. One word of caution though, I have heard that a couple of people have been having issues where dents are being left in the cymbal pads and they're not actually popping back out. So if this happens to your cymbal, return it right away. I don't know if this is a widespread issue or if only like 8 people have had this happen to them, but these cymbals have been getting really good reviews, so I still think they're worth buying, even though they're really expensive. Now, of course, I couldn't possibly leave the cymbal upgrade section without giving a nod to metal electronic cymbals. They're not really for me because they're a little bit too loud and I don't like the ting-ting sound that you hear whenever you're playing them, but some people absolutely love them because they look amazing. You can even buy these cymbals that are actual Sabian or Zildjian cymbals and just have them converted to electronic. There's a lot of different options out here. 2 companies that you should probably look at are Jobecki for one. Their cymbals cost somewhere around $200 to $300 a piece. They've got a bunch of different series for different looks, whatever you want to go for. And then of course, if you want to convert it yourself, you can buy a conversion kit from Stealth Drums. This will be a much cheaper option. You take cymbals that you already have, or maybe just go buy some beat up cymbals that you find on Craigslist for, not much money, and then buy a conversion kit. They're like $50 to $150, and you do the conversion yourself. You don't have to drill into the cymbals anymore. Those are 2 great options to look at if you want to go for metal cymbals. Electronic cymbals is a huge topic that I should probably make a dedicated video about sometime, just going over every brand of e-cymbal out there because there are a ton of companies you probably never even heard about. Alright, so that's just one upgrade idea. There's tons of other ways to waste your money when you're buying electronic drum stuff. So let's go over to upgrade number 2, a total hardware upgrade. You're probably wondering what the heck I'm talking about. There are lots of really cool things you can do for $1,000 if you want to upgrade all the little parts and pieces that hold your actual drum pads up and keep everything really sturdy. For example, if you hate drum racks, and there are some guys that absolutely don't like drum racks on electronic drums, you can buy individual stands for everything. So you can buy some tom holders, you can buy individual cymbal stands for all of your electronic cymbals, you can buy a snare stand for your snare, it goes on and on and on, and you can actually get a pretty interesting look. We recently saw this like a year and a half ago with Yamaha. Some people loved that look, so you can absolutely accomplish that with this extra money. And the really cool thing about this is now you can use a 22-inch bass drum. With most drum racks, including including my Roland TD30K drum rack, it's actually not tall enough to use with a 22-inch bass drum. You can kind of sort of make it work, but the drum rack is pretty much just sitting on top of the bass drum. So now that you're not actually using a drum rack, start using a 22-inch bass drum. The really interesting thing about hardware is that it can be as expensive or inexpensive as you want it to be. You can buy stuff that's gold plated. People buy that. Neil Peart used stuff like that. Or you can go to a music store that sells used stuff. I bought like a used snare stand for $25. It was a steal. Okay, so let's assume you spend like $300 on hardware to hold all those electronic pieces up. Now, of course, you'll need to buy a kick drum pedal because you wanted to upgrade that. So like a DW9000, an Iron Cobra. My favorite double kick pedal is by Trick. Those are absolutely amazing. It feels like, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the smoothest kick drum pedal I've ever played in my life. Maybe upgrade your drum throne. I absolutely hate those $50 drum thrones. Most of the time, they don't feel very comfortable after like 20 minutes of play. So rock and sock drum thrones are my favorite. Other people have other favorites. There are a lot of cool options out there. And with the remaining $300, you can buy a cheap drum shell and then buy an upgrade package like a Roland KD A22. This will make an acoustic bass drum electronic, or you can buy like a mesh head and a drum trigger. You can absolutely spend $1,000 just on hardware upgrades to make your electronic drum set that much better. Okay, so let's move on to upgrade number 3. Maybe you already have the cymbals of your dreams. Maybe you have the best hardware there is in the business, but what you really need is better sound. So you can actually revolutionize your sound for $1,000. If you want the absolute best drum software there is right now, there's a general consensus that Superior Drummer 3 is that software. So for around $400, you can buy it. If you already have Superior Drummer 2, you can get a cross-grade deal on it, so you'll actually spend less money than that. And with that extra money, you can buy a used Mac laptop because Windows laptops absolutely suck for drum software. I'll probably talk about that in a dedicated video later on. So that's $1,000 right there. Drum software and a laptop, so you just have it next to your drum set at all times. You can have a dedicated laptop and the best drum software in the world, and that's going to be somewhere around $1,000, assuming you get a ludicrously good deal on that MacBook. But hey, this is a what if video, so whatever. So that's definitely one route you can go. But what if you don't actually like drum software? It's not right for everybody. What if you just want to upgrade your sound by buying a brand new drum module? Are there any legit options that actually sound better than what you're probably using right now? And the answer is yes, there's actually a bunch of great options out there. On the one hand, the Roland TD25 drum module, you can buy those brand new for like $1,000, buy them used for like $800. Those are solid. I've recommended those to a lot of different drummers. You can buy a 2-box drum at 3. That's a really strong contender in this price category. You can import drum software onto the thing. It sounds good from the limited sound demo that we've heard so far. Definitely worth considering. It's got a lot of inputs on the thing. You could also take a look at maybe a used ATV 85 drum module. I'm not a giant fan of that module because they don't really give you many editing controls, but it does sound amazing. And if you're trying to go for something that just sounds really good and you don't care about editing everything to death, then maybe that's something worth looking into. But my money right now is probably on the 2-box drum at 3 module. All right, so let's move on to upgrade number 4. More drums. We're going for the Neil Peart effect. We want a wall of drums everywhere you look. Can you accomplish this on $1,000? Yes, you can buy a ton of rubber pads for hardly any money. You can get like 3 for $75. You can have a wall of drums, get a bunch of drum splitters, max out your drum module, maybe buy a cheap secondary drum module. Easily done for under $1,000, especially if you already have your electronic drum set as a base, and then you can build up from there. But maybe you're more of this snobbish, sophisticated guy that thinks that rubber pads are for peasants, and you only buy mesh pads. Well, you can go this route. You won't be able to buy as many pads, obviously, but you can buy a 12-inch dual zone Roland mesh pad for around $150 used on eBay right now. You can buy Roland PDX8 pads, like 3 for $300. I even saw a set of 4 Pintec mesh pads for $400, including some bar triggers. Of course, you'd have to replace the mesh heads, but there are budget options out there if you want to buy a lot of pads for not that much money. Some of the money will be eaten up in cables as well. You do have to budget for that. If you buy the Hosa cables on Amazon, you can buy really long 1/4-inch cables that are angled on one end, on straight on the other end. That's great for cymbals because a lot of times you can't really use non-angled cables if you're trying to connect cymbals. Just making sure that these cables, do multiple things later on down the road. Okay, so let's move over to upgrade number 5, the ultimate trigger upgrade. A lot of people are starting to turn their acoustic drum sets into electronic drum sets like I did with the set behind me right here. And a lot of times you go the cheap route. Maybe you buy a bunch of D-Drum Red Shots, which are awesome, by the way, for the price. And they're incredibly good for how cheap they are. Maybe you bought a whole set of Roland RT10 triggers, RT30 triggers. Maybe you're using the new chrome Yamaha triggers. You buy something that's a little bit budget, it works, it clips onto the side of your drum, but maybe you want something a little bit better than that. Don't worry, I've got your back. If you want to achieve that next level of drum triggering where it literally feels like you're playing a roll and mesh pad, except it's on a 22-inch bass drum and a 14-inch snare pad, you're probably going to want to go with a high-end drum trigger. Our Drums is a really good company for this purpose because they make really high-end drum triggers. Unfortunately, they're expensive, but you've got the money here because you got $1,000. They cost somewhere around $300 a piece, so you buy one for your snare, maybe buy one for your floor tom, buy one for your kick drum. You'll have to mess with other triggers later on when you save up more money, but these triggers are absolutely incredible. I have their bass trigger, this bar trigger over here on my snare, and it's like $150. It's incredible. It makes it feel like a regular roll and mesh pad. I don't get the same level of performance from side-mounted triggers. They definitely work. I'm not trying to gripe on any drum triggers I've tried in the past, like the Joe Becky ones, the Roland ones, the D-drum ones, but they don't give you the same level of performance that you get from a bar trigger. And the high-end triggers that I'm mentioning in this video, where they go from one arm from each lug to a center-mounted trigger, that will give you the best triggering results you can possibly get from, any sort of DIY internal kit like this. And that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to know, before you guys leave, if you had $1,000 today, what upgrades would you make to your drum set? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos in this, if you want it to become a series, like 5 killer upgrades for $500 or 5 killer upgrades for $2,000, let me know in the comments below and I might make more videos in this and make it into a series. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you in a few.